Hey guys, this morning for math, we are going to be working in our math journal on page 101. And this would be like the lesson I would do in small group or at the board, the journal pages that we would do together. So you took your math journal home, pull that out, open up to page 101, work through these problems with me just like you would at teacher table. And then there's a Go formative that you can just type in your answers to so that I can check that you did it with me and that you've got everything completed. So pull out that journal page. If you need to pause the video here, do that. Grab your stuff and let's work through it together. Okay, we're talking about fraction number stories today. So looking at number 1, it says 4 friends shared 5 sandwiches after their hike. If they each ate an equal share, how many sandwiches did each friend eat? So when we work with fractions in story problems, we've been talking about objects and shares. So looking at this problem, I can see I have 5 objects, 5 sandwiches, and 4 shares. 4 friends are sharing them. So my fraction that I set up, objects on top, shares on the bottom, I'm going to have 5 on the top and 4 on the bottom. So that's going to look something like this. Objects and shares, 5 sandwiches, 4 people sharing it. All fractions can be thought of as division problems. So I divide 5 divided by 4. I know that 4 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. And 5 take away 4 is 1. So then I ask myself, that 1, what is it? Well, that 1 is the leftover sandwich that has to get split between the friends. So if I have to split it between 4 friends, I'm going to cut that sandwich into 4 pieces. So here's the friends, 1, 2, 3, 4 friends. Here's the sandwiches, 5 sandwiches. Each friend is going to get 1 whole sandwich, and that 5th sandwich that's left over, I'm going to divide it between them. So if there's 4 people, I'm cutting it into fourths, and I'm giving each friend an extra 1/4. So each person is going to get 1 and 1/4 sandwiches. Okay? So make sure you get all that down, and then you can copy it into your Go formative here in just a little bit. If you need to pause the video, pause it whenever you need to. All right? Looking at number 2, Josh combined half of a carton of eggs with a third of a carton of eggs. And he said, well, now I have 2/5 of a carton. Is Josh correct? Well, looking at Josh's fractions, 1/3 plus 1/2, and he came up with 2/5. I can look at those fractions and say, oh, Josh, you just added those fractions together, and you can't do that. First of all, they don't have a common denominator. You'd have to find a common denominator. But also, 2/5 of a carton. Let's think about what we know about benchmark fractions and estimating fractions. A half of a carton, okay, so half, plus a third of a carton, okay? And he's saying it's 2/5. Well, 2/5, if I think about estimating fractions, that's really close to 2/4. And I know that 2/4 is a half. If I look at my circle and I divide it into fourths, and I have 2/4, okay, that's half my circle. So if I estimate 2/5 to 2/4, Josh is saying now he has half of a carton. Well, Josh, you started with half of a carton, and then you added more to it. So if you added more to the half that you started with, shouldn't you have more than a half? So I don't think that you're correct, Josh. So is Josh correct? No. Why not? Well, 1/2 and 1/3 should be bigger than a half. 2/5 is almost the same as a half. Okay, if I'm rounding that fraction. He's saying that he's ending with what he pretty much started with. His number should be bigger than that. We don't actually have to find a common denominator and solve this problem because we can estimate and know that he didn't do the math correctly. Okay. Again, if you ever need to pause the video to fill in your math journal, just pause. Number 3 says that Ryan lives 3 1/4 miles from school, and Kayla lives 2 3/4 miles from school. How much farther from school does Ryan live than Kayla? When you see those words, how much farther, that's a clue that you're going to be doing subtraction. You're finding the difference between Ryan and Kayla's distance from school. So I'm going to take Ryan's distance and I'm going to subtract Kayla's distance. And whatever answer I get, that's how far apart they are. Okay, so when I set up my problem, I had 3 1/4, take away 2 3/4. Okay, so I look at this problem and I think, okay, well, 3 take away 2, I can do that. But here I have 1/4 take away 3/4, and I can't do 1 take away 3. So I'm going to have to do some borrowing. And you can borrow when you're using fractions. You have to borrow from the whole number. So if I had 3, I can borrow from the 3 and change it to a 2. Well, what am I borrowing? I'm borrowing a whole number. Okay, and 4/4, this is in fourths, 4/4 is 1. So I'm going to take that 4/4 that I borrowed and I'm going to give it to the neighbor, just like we do when we're subtracting with whole numbers. So I'm taking those 4/4 and I'm giving it here to the 1/4. So 1/4 plus 4/4 is 5/4. So now this new number is 2 5/4. I didn't have to change that one. So I leave it as 2 3/4. Okay, 2 take away 2 is 0. And 5 take away 3 is 2. I don't have to write the 0. I can just write the 2/4. So Ryan is 2/4 miles farther than Kayla. Or you could say Ryan is a half of a mile farther than Kayla. Okay. Number 4. Delilah was playing fraction capture. She wrote her initials on a 1/3 section and a 1/6 section. What is the sum of the sections she initialed? So sum means addition. So she had 1/3 section and she had 1/6 of a section. And it wants to know the sum. So I'm going to put them together. Okay, so 1/3 plus 1/6 equals, I'll say M because I'm not sure yet. I have to do the math. Okay, we know we can do the butterfly method. So I can multiply here. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus, multiply here. 3 times 1 is 3. And then to get the denominator, I multiply my denominators. 3 times 6 is 18. So 6/18 plus 3/18 equals 9/18. So I could leave it at 9/18 or I could reduce it or simplify it. I can divide both of these numbers by 3. And I know that because knowing my multiplication facts, I know that 3 goes into 9 and 3 goes into 18. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. And 18 divided by 3 is 6. So my answer would be 9/18. I could leave it that way. Or 3/6 because they're the same. Okay, so I could use both of them. That was page 101. That's the first page in your Go Formative. We also have page 102. It's more number stories. Okay, so this first problem is about Lauren. Lauren had 3/4 of a gallon of paint, and she poured in an additional 1/8 gallon from another can. How much paint does Lauren have? So I'm putting her fractions together, just like we did in the last problem. She had 3/4. She added an additional 1/8. Okay, so butterfly method. 3 times 8 is 24. Plus 4 times 1 is 4. Get my common denominator. 4 times 8 is 32. So I put it on the bottom here. I put it on the bottom here. Now they have a common denominator and I can add them together. So 24 plus 4 is going to be 28. And my denominator stays the same. So I could stop there. I could say 28 over 32. Or I could simplify that. I could reduce it because that's kind of a big fraction. So I could ask myself, well, what number can I divide both of those things by to make this fraction smaller? Okay, well, looking at those numbers and thinking of my multiplication facts, I know that I could divide both of those by 4. So 28 divided by 4 is 7. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. So I could say that she has 7/8 of a gallon. Okay? Both of these answers are correct. So you can leave it here or you can simplify it. Okay? All right. Let's see for our next problem. We have someone who's cutting fabric for a quilt, and she has 4 feet of cloth to make 12 quilt pieces. If she uses all of the fabric, how long should each quilt piece be? Okay, so let's think objects and shares. She has 4 feet. That's her object. And she's cutting it into 12 pieces. Okay. So I'm already in fraction form. Now I can do my division problem. 4 divided by 12. 4 divided by 12. That's going to be kind of hard to do. 4 divided by 12. Well, without having to get into decimals and remainders and all of that, let's try to set it up in a different way. She has 4 feet of cloth, and she wants to make it into 12 pieces. So I think when I'm doing cloth, I might be using like a tape measure. And she's got 4 feet, so we'll put 0 here and 4 here on like a number line. So this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3. 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet. Okay? Okay, and she wants to divide it into 12 pieces. So I'm going to make 12 pieces in here. So if I've got 4, 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to do thirds in here. 0, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, 7/3, 8/3, 9/3, 10/3, 11/3, 12/3. Okay, so now I've got 12 little pieces of quilt here. Each of these little sections would be a piece of quilt. So how long should each quilt piece be? Well, how long? That's like saying how long is each of these little sections between each tick mark? Well, that's a third. That was 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So my answer is that each piece is going to be 4/12. I could leave it at 4/12 or a third of a foot. Okay? All right. I'm going to pause my video here. I want you to try number 7 and number 8 on your own and type those into the Go Formative. And if you don't get them correct, I'll just mark them and you can come back and try to make some corrections to them. But I want you to try these 2 story problems on your own. And I am going to stop this video, and then I will post a second video for page 103. I can only make a video that's a certain amount of length. So this one's coming to an end, and there will be one more video for page 103.